that move,
Mhm.
like, that's a gymnastics move. That's called an illusion, and that's, like, girls train years to be able to do that, and all of a sudden some dude in cargo pants and Nikes is doing this? Like, that's crazy to me.
What is up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. I think, we're at the tail end of season 3 here, and I think I've been spending a lot of time this year kind of doing a lot of reflection as far as what I want to, continue to use Scoped as, and, being Western Canada based, I kind of want to get I always have been, but I want to spend more of my time and intentionality of putting on for the scene here, obviously, but getting to feature and have conversations with the people within the community that I'm a part of. And recently, I think this has been an episode, an interview that I've been brewing for a long time. And I think with the release of the demo of this band, I was like, Asia, it's time to do the pod if you're down, and she was. So I'm very, very excited to finally have Asia of Fold on the Scoped Exposure podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
It's so for those that don't know, Asia and I have known each other for a few years, I would say, but only recently started to sing in a band called Fold, and you guys have played a number of shows, but I only got to see it kind of live for the first time in the last couple of weeks here since moving back to Alberta. So obviously I want to talk about release and talk about, all the good things when it comes to Wild Rose Hardcore. But first, we got to check a bev before we get into the music chat. So what are you sipping on this morning, Asia?
I am sipping on some chamomile tea from Satanic Tea Co. because Dom is our boy.
That's just an all local scenario. I love that.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you were drinking something that was caffeinated because you said I'm sleepy versus I'm sipping. So
No caffeinated today.
Mhm. Yeah. How much of Dom's tea have you do you partake in? Are you a regular customer
Oh,
of his?
I'm a regular for sure. I
Mhm.
absolutely love it. I love tea in general. I don't drink coffee, so tea is big for me, but his stuff is just the best.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I remember when I came back for that one show and I had some work stuff going on and you were gracious enough to put me up. I remember your tea selection. You were stocked. You had a lot.
I was stalked for sure.
Yeah. Since we're on the topic of teas, what are the top 3 types of tea that you always have in your cabinet at your disposal?
Always chamomile, always Earl Grey, and then this one is a little bit controversial, but always spearmint.
Okay.
Always, yes.
So is spearmint underrated?
I think it's super underrated. I find a lot of
Okay.
people are quick to be like, "Oh, no, that's not good because it's gonna taste like toothpaste," but I'm telling you, give it a try, it's good.
Interesting. Okay. I can't recall the last time I've bought spearmint tea. I think I've only just been like, "Oh, it's here," and maybe it's the last thing on the line, but maybe I have to revisit. Um,
Yeah,
is there
you gotta revisit.
I don't think Dom makes a spearmint tea of some kind.
He has teas that have mint flavors in it,
Right. But
for
there's no
sure,
demon toothpaste flavor that he's made.
no, but Dom, if you're watching this or listening, I think we
Take that
have an
idea.
idea here.
Of course. So I'm just, early in the morning, just drinking some coffee in one of my favorite ceramics that we have in the house. Um,
Yeah, that's nice.
yeah, I remember I was featuring this mug on a past episode, and I've totally forgot who the ceramicist is. But now that I've uh, I kind of like went after that episode to check. So for those that don't know, there's a I think her name is Chelsea Faith Ceramics on Instagram, and she makes the mugs, and then her husband, who's a tattoo artist, does the painting of it. So nice
Yeah, those are
little
nice.
dynamic relationship duo.
Love
So we
that.
love to see that. So Asia, cheers to you. Very excited to
Cheers.
finally do this. So, Asia, I know, for a new person who comes here on the show, I always like to get a bit of context as far as how they got on the hardcore path, their origin story, so to speak. So, tell me kind of what initially caught your eye when it came to like heavier music or hardcore or punk, however you want to spin it.
Well, I definitely come from a heavy music family. Both my parents are rockers. So I think my biggest influence was my mom because she started bringing me to local shows in Lethbridge actually when I was super young, like all ages shows when I was really young. And then I remember the first big show that she brought me to was Mastodon,
Mm,
which like they're super, super sick, right? And even crazier live. And I remember seeing that like changed everything for me in terms of music and just how I look at music. And then yeah, it was just a pathway from there with like metal and then finding punk music, which then led me into hardcore.
hmm
Mhm.
What specifically about seeing Mastodon live changed how you see music? Break that down
I
for me.
think it was just like the heavy, like how heavy it was, and then how the crowd responded to seeing it and the energy that was in the room. Like it's crazy. I always tell people, like, you can't verbally describe heavy shows. You just have to be there and
Mm,
feel it. Like it's a feeling that you get. And if you get it, you get it.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Like it's that gamble of when there's a normie in your life where you're like, do I like pull back the curtain a little bit and show
Yeah, 100%.
but when they're when you're watching like a YouTube video of a set like for an outsider it's like they're just in disbelief. They're like, I've never seen anything like this. But like once
Yes.
you're in the room and you're feeling that, it's like something that's like so indescribable for sure.
100%. Yeah, and my mom always in the car would always be playing heavy music, like everything from Iron Maiden and Sabbath to like Cannibal Corpse, all of it. My mom loves it. So she
Hmm.
brought me to my first heavy shows and yeah, that's
Yeah.
what really had it stick for me.
Yeah. So I think we talked about this when I was visiting over the summer, but like because sometimes it happens naturally where either someone will have the high heavy music exposure or they'll have something very, very subtle, which is like a friend through high school who maybe like shows them a couple bands and tells them like the asking Alexandrias that they're listening to suck and then they kind of correct them.
Yeah.
But on the parent side, like some people were like, my parents listened to this and then I went and did the opposite. Or like my
Mhm.
parents did this as a profession and I went the opposite. But was it like did you have a moment of that where it's like, oh, that's mom and dad's music versus like, oh, like I like this too, and find your own individualism in it?
Honestly, like I find that where I kind of stray is hardcore itself because my mom definitely she likes hardcore, she appreciates it a lot. However, she's a metal lady through and through.
Right.
The scene and the music and everything about it. So I feel like that's kind of where I was like, oh, like, nah, I don't really want to go to the hair metal show with you, mom, anymore. Sorry. So there's definitely that, but just like they introduced me to guitar music and I knew that like guitar music is what I wanted to listen to.
Right. Yeah. And that covers so many like avenues for you to choose from for sure.
Exactly,
Um,
yeah.
but it was dope because like I remember when because I was in town and staying with you for the Madball weekend, and your mom was like just seeing someone of that age, of my parents' age as well, to like get so stoked to see Madball. I'm just like, this is just so interesting to see how it's like two people who are equally as excited and stoked to see the same band for different reasons, obviously. Okay, so let's talk about like, because Fold is the very first band that you're a part of. And I think like I've seen like just being in Calgary, I've seen you kind of like, going to shows and then kind of getting more into like doing the pit stuff. But then I think it was just kind of like one of those things where I was just eagerly awaiting for you to be in a band of some magnitude. So has Fold been a long time coming, or did that kind of like, was there a certain thing where it's like, okay, now it feels like it's time for me?
Honestly, I feel like it's probably been, like, a long time coming for me, just, like, my love for music and for, like, hardcore and punk music and all that kinda stuff and, like, the mosh style and the energy and everything, like, I knew I wanted to be in a band. I was kind of just waiting for the people that I wanted to do it with and people that wanted to do a similar style of music that I wanted to do within the genre.
Mm,
But it was definitely, like, a long time coming, like, I knew I wanted to do this, but again, like, being so busy with, like, other things also, like, it takes a lot of time and
right.
energy to write music and to, like, put it out there and stuff, and it makes you pretty vulnerable as well, so, it was definitely a balance of being like, "Hey, I really wanna do this, but, like, is this the right thing to do right now? I'm so busy with all my other commitments. Like, what if people don't like it? All that kind of stuff." But then I was like, who cares? Like, I don't care if anyone likes it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I it is both it's it is both a love and a bane of my existence when it comes to like like starting a new band, because it's just
Yeah.
like there's so much like very like just necessary things to just like, okay, we got to set up the band camp, we got to set up this, we got to
Mhm.
like get shirts printed for the first
So
like,
many steps.
yeah, at least when the ball is rolling, like, like you can and even if the band is on like a break for like a release or, something going on, it's like at
Yeah.
least there are certain things in the rhythm where picking it back up is easy, but like it is a burn to like get things started at the beginning. And it's a little daunting when you have never done that. But I know that like primarily Fold, I think the idea of it was kind of like a combination between yourself and Daniel, obviously, and kind of
Mhm.
forming the team around that. And but yeah, it's like I always have the idea of like it'd be cool to kind of just have another little project, and then I'm like, oh, that's just so much work. I don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like when it came when you were talking about like the aspect of like singing, was it because I've seen you like come up and do like some guest spots for stuff, but like when it came to the actual like preparation of like, okay, I'm gonna like sing in this band, I want to do a good job, like who were like certain influences or different like things that you were kind of like pulling from to kind of like have your own debut on the mic?
I took a like huge inspiration from Dystopia, just um through his like vocal range and also his performance style of kind of just like acknowledging that the crowd is there, but also like thinking that they're not there and just going crazy on stage. Like I think that's awesome. And then from like kind of a modern hardcore standpoint of bands that are happening right now, Carlos from Raw Brigade, his style while performing and like his dance moves and everything he does on stage, like I take huge inspiration from that also because it's just about like going crazy and not worrying about what people think about you. And like
Right.
he does that perfectly. Like it's awesome. So every
Mm.
time I see that band live, I'm like, they have crazy stage performance. So
Yeah.
I've taken notes on him as well for sure.
Yeah, I got to see them when they played in Toronto with Speed, and it's just like so captivating the entire set. And he
Yes.
is just, and I find like it's sometimes harder as like a taller and lankier individual because
Yes.
you're occupying so much space with your limbs at times versus if you're kind of
100%.
like under 6 foot and you can kind of like everything is a little bit more condensed as far as like your presence, but he fully owns it. And yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
awesome.
so so kind of going into the aspect of like, okay, we got the band going. We're gonna, do all this stuff. Like, what was because you guys decided to start playing some shows before the demo dropped. I don't know if that was like
Yeah.
intentional because I've been on both sides of the coins where it's like, okay, we're gonna drop this and then we're gonna play shows, and then sometimes it's like there's a bit of a delay, and then we have to like just to fill some bills on some shows.
Yeah.
So, but I do think that sometimes it does work in your favor where people are just like stoked to see a new band in the scene, so they want to like
Mhm.
go off for it, and then the music is released, and then there's a second wave to that. Did you find that
Yeah.
was kind of how it worked with Fold?
Yeah, kind of. I think, like, we were just excited to perform, and I think a lot of people were just excited to see us because, like, in our scene, we're all pretty close and, like, we all know each other really well, so we're all friends, right? So I think
Right.
a lot of people were like, "We don't really care if the music's out, we just wanna, like, see you guys perform because it's gonna be fun," and then also have a new band to watch because we have, like, a lot of the same bands performing on the bills, right?
Right.
So I think people were just stoked, and then we released the music, and it was, like, instant love from everyone. So
Mm.
it was cool, and the first show that we played in Edmonton, that was, like, intentional and planned out, and then the second show that we played in Calgary, we were actually put on the show, like, last minute. Like, I found out the night before. I remember my drummer messaged chat and was like, "Hey, do you wanna play this show in Calgary? Like, there's some stuff going on, they need another band on there." I was like, "Oh, like, shit, okay, like, let's do it then." So, like, we were playing the show that we had no prep for, didn't practice, but it went
Mm.
well, so it was fine.
Yeah. I love
Mhm.
the aspect of a surprise set for a band that like
Doesn't
it's
have
a
music at all.
it's a like a if
No.
you know a surprise set.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So kind of going into the aspect, oh, what was I gonna ask? So I guess like on the aspect of like the demo itself, like let's talk about like the first thing that needs to be covered for sure is the sample intro that you guys did on it. Can we talk a little bit about how that came to be?
Like, the beat at the beginning or
Yes, of
the just
course.
the yeah, the beat. So, Dan and I were talking, we were like, "We don't know if we wanna, like, hard start this demo with just, like, instant, like, bass or whatever." And I was like, "I don't know if I wanna like, just start it with, like, just a sample from, like, a movie or something like that." Like, I want some sort of musical aspect in the beginning.
Hmm.
And then we knew, like, our buddy Cole, like, makes great beats, so we were like, "Why don't we message him and, like, ask him if he wants to do a beat for us?" And we gave him our inspiration, which was, like, an old Scooby-Doo beat from the '70s. And we were like, "Yeah, like, we wanna start with, like, something kinda creepy," and then we gave him some samples that we found from the internet to, like, mix in with it, and, like,
Hmm.
he did the rest, like, he was the genius behind that one for sure.
Yeah. It
Mhm.
was I remember when Dan was like, because I think Fold is such a great hardcore band name. It's short, it's to
Mhm.
the point. It's almost one that you wouldn't really
Mhm.
expect, but at the same time, it's like, you know, it- when you have a band name, you're trying to think about like, okay, or even just like song names, you're trying to think of like, okay, how could different samples like work in favor with that? And I
Yeah.
remember Dan showing me like just digging through the internet to find something where people say fold, and then found the one that was like, "I'll fold you like a piece of
Yeah.
paper," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, you need to use that in somehow," but like, but the fact that it was like included in the beat, it was
Yeah.
just so perfect.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, mad shout out to Cole the God from Trench and just beat master.
Yeah, for sure. That was super, super epic. Like I said, I love that sample, but I didn't want just it to start with "I'll fold you like a piece of paper." Like, I wanted music on top of it.
Right.
So he was able to, like, just take what I was trying to tell him verbally and, like, turn it into, like, music, and I was like, "This is perfect. I love
Yeah.
this." Mhm.
That's like one of my favorite things of like the creative process is sometimes when you just come with like a very bare bones idea, like someone
Yeah.
who is like an expert can take it from like 1 into 100, and it's like, wow,
Yeah.
I could have never like taken it to that level. So
Mhm.
yeah, I love the collab there. Speaking of like more artistic aspects of the demo, I when the artwork was sent to me from Dan, I was like, this is so interesting and so like not something normal from what I've seen in the hardcore community, but I feel like it fits the
Yeah.
band so perfectly. Talk to me about
Yeah.
who did it and the inspo for that.
So the Michaela, my best friend, she did the artwork, and I knew I wanted her because, like what we were talking about before, wanting to be in a band and stuff. I always told her when we were younger, I was like, "Man, when I'm in a band, I want you to draw the art for my band." So
Oh,
when it finally started happening, I was like, "Dude, like I still want you to draw the art for the band."
mhm.
And super similar, where I was like, gave her my ideas knowing that she was the expert, and then she executed it, and it was just perfect, and it works with the beat perfectly, it works with me perfectly. So I think it's really cool. We wanted to do something kind of colorful but also dark, which
Mhm.
is like really kind of like an oxymoron because it's like bright and colorful but also make it look like it's in like a dark room and like it's
Yeah.
hard to see and stuff. But yeah, she did it for us, and yeah, it was super sick, super
Yeah.
happy on how it turned out. And I've gotten like so many compliments on it, on like people will listen to the music and stare at the artwork and they're like, wow, this is like a full realized concept with the beat and the art and the music together. Like it all just works.
Yeah. And I feel like, some the aspect that you're able to kind of play off of like, I don't know, like a more like children's book like
Hmm.
design, but like still give it like a bit of like edge to it when it comes to like the style to match the style of the music. I think it was just like a slam dunk, like
Yeah.
high praise. I'll make sure that we include Michaela is their name.
Yeah.
I'll,
Yeah.
I'll include their info in the episode, um, to for people to check it out. Because if we could get more hardcore bands to have like artwork like that, like I'm for it.
Yeah,
So
I'm telling people more bands need to go back to doing physical art. Like digital art's awesome, it's cool, it has its place, but I mean, get a real painting for your album or your demo.
mhm,
Like do it, it's epic.
yeah, I feel like there's definitely like I was kind of having this conversation. I think it was with Jordan actually, but like there are definitely like certain tropes within DIY or like hardcore music that I understand, but like, and I don't know if this is a hot take per se, but like when a band only has like black and white covers, like it annoys me so much.
You know what? I agree. And listen, like, I am a black and white girl. I only have black and white band merch. Like, I won't wear our band merch if it's colorful, even full band merch. I'm not going to wear any of it because it's all probably going to be colorful. So I understand the black and white aesthetic, but with art, like, there's so much more you can do if you just add some color to it.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just like and it can just be subtle. It can still have a lot like 80% black, but just like throw something, especially
Yeah.
when bands are doing like LP to LP cuz I'm just like, okay, which black and white
Yeah. What am I
mess
looking
of
at here?
exact yeah. So, I don't know. That's my one confession off well, it's not even a confession. I'll die on that hill. But yeah, it's a bit of an annoyance where bands like I feel like you're just leaving stuff on the table. There's definitely bands
Hmm.
that add too much like I'm looking at a record behind me that was like that is way too much color. That's not a great example. But I feel it's
Yeah.
in the subtleties.
Hmm.
Um is there any like to echo your point on the artwork side, though, I think a lot of people just assume they see some dope artwork and then they immediately want it on a shirt or a hoodie or something
Hmm.
like that. I don't know if there's even a way to do that. But there's just like a million colors in that artwork. I don't know if that's been discussed in the band chat at all.
Definitely considering doing it as like a pre-order or something because it would just like there's so much colors in that art, especially because it's a painting. Like it would be so expensive to like do a do a full run of that. Like we can't afford that. Let's be honest. But we definitely want to do a pre-order for that one for
Yeah.
sure. Considering ways to like almost alter it to make it more monochromatic. So choosing kind of like one color throughout it and getting like another version of it done with just like one color or trying to turn it into like a black and white version just to make it like more affordable because the artwork is super dope. And I know a lot of people have asked for it on shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah.
Yeah, like sometimes, like you could definitely do stickers of that, no problem.
For sure. Yeah, we did our
Yeah.
J cards that as well on our tapes, so people were
Mhm.
able to get it that way.
Did you do the tapes just like yourself, or is that like through something, or is that a to be determined later on?
We kinda just, like, ordered them from a buddy and then got them duplicated and then printed J cards and cut them ourselves and put it in. So we like, yeah, we pretty much did it ourselves with some help of the community, you know?
Right. Um, I guess like one of the last questions on the artwork, and this is something that like I've been trying to do with Endgame because it didn't start this way, but like we've kind of had this like character when it comes to like this little devil in all of our artworks, and
Mhm.
I've taken inspiration from that through like a day to remember because they would always have like a guy on like
Yeah.
all of their stuff. So I don't know if there's plans or thoughts to like whether it's the girl, like the relationship between the girl and the ghost, or the to kind of be in multiple things in the
Mhm.
future, or if that's just kind of like a one off and we'll do something else in for the next release.
We've talked Dan and I have talked about that, and we're not sure if we're gonna, like, use the same characters, but it's definitely gonna be in the same universe. Like, the
Oh,
art style will be very similar, like, almost looking like it's in, like, the same world. Like, we were talking about, like, what's around the corner because the girl's coming out from a corner, right? So what's on the
mhm.
other side of it? Like, we're kind of
Yeah,
brainstorming ideas like that. I don't know if
I
we're gonna
like that.
use the girl again or the monster again, but definitely, like, same world for sure.
Yeah, the full diverse.
The Foldiverse. That's awesome.
Right. I think the other thing too, and I think that there's a bit of a trope specifically with Alberta bands that there's like the style that Fold is going for is not a common thing within the like within the Calgary and kind of Edmonton space. Like maybe more Edmonton, but like with the
Mhm.
majority of the members being in Calgary, like there's not a lot of like true punk hardcore bands like that, like you guys.
Yeah.
And I find, and just speaking as someone who has also played in a band that is not in the common denominator of like subgenres, sometimes that can feel like a little daunting. But I think it's almost the opposite, that like being one of the few actually like works in your favor more. Have you found that
Yeah.
with like playing some of the shows that you guys have, where it's like, we're a band that like kind of stays in this lane and people are wanting to are down with that?
Yeah, I think it definitely makes us stand out. A lot of, like, the bands coming from our city right now are very of, like, a different kind of subgenre within the scene. So I think it definitely does make us stand out because it's been a while since Calgary has had a hardcore punk band. And honestly, when, like, Daniel and I were making it, I remember telling him, I was like, "We need a band that can teach these kids how to two-step," because we got this whole wave of new kids after COVID, like most scenes did, and we have all this, like, complicated metalcore riffs, and I'm like, "They're not learning how to dance properly because of this." Like, we need to dumb it down, go back to the roots. These kids need to learn how to two-step, learn how to mosh clean, and then, they'll be able to appreciate more of that, like, other bands that we have. But I was like, we don't have anything that, like, that teaches kids how to do this. We gotta make the dance band. Like, we need a true dance band.
Yeah. I I really want a Fold shirt that says like Fold like dance crew on the back or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that. Next, like if it's for the Bull or some other fest that you guys are playing, I feel like that needs to be a little like exclusive shirt that needs to be made. Cause yeah,
yes.
like especially like seeing you guys in Calgary, it's like giving more of those type of parts for people to like literally do the practice
Yes.
in at the shows to be able to do it. Like, you could be two-stepping in your basement for as long as you want, but like without having the actual energy and the music going, like that's where
Mhm.
that's where you're trying to like actually show your stuff.
Yeah.
And you need opportunities to show your stuff. So
Yes, for
yeah.
sure. So I was like, let's make a dance band, especially me having, like, a huge appreciation for the dance world in itself. So
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, we gotta do it.
I feel like that's a very great segue into some other stuff that I wanted to talk to you about. So people that know you know that you're, I guess, like the world outside of like hardcore and music stuff that you're active in is like gymnastics and things like that. Um, when did that originally start for you? Because I think you've been doing that for like over a decade at this point.
Yeah, for sure. So my first introduction to any sort of like physical movement like that was jazz dance. And then it was like super expensive to do dance like that. So I transitioned to rhythmic gymnastics. And yeah, it's been like over a decade of doing it for sure. And then that's just branched off into all different types of like performance like that and like different types of gymnastics and stuff. And it really does like affect everything I do performance wise outside of it. Like gymnastics has affected music and how I act in a band and everything like that 100%, just in terms of like working in teams. And then also like my dedication to something as well is very, very ingrained for me from gymnastics. So like if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If I say I'm going to be somewhere at a certain time, I'm going to be there.
Hmm.
So it definitely has like affected how I look at our band as well, for sure.
Yeah, like that was some questions I had as far as like what has been the crossover between both, but I wasn't expecting like the actual like not like the ethics, but just like the way you do something versus maybe a stylistic thing.
Hmm.
Like that's
And
very interesting.
I definitely have to like let go a little bit because gymnastics has shaped me into being like a perfectionist when I perform and stuff. And I know hardcore isn't about being perfect and you're never gonna have a perfect set the same way that like we're taught in gymnastics where like you go out there and you try and be as close to perfect as you can. So I've definitely had to like kind of like relax a little bit, chill
Hmm.
on that. Like not everything's gonna be perfect, but um, I am like through and through a performer, and it really does come over. Even though like Fold is my first time doing like performing in a band and doing music. Every time I go up there, it feels like I've been doing it for like a decade still because of the amount of gymnastics performances I've done all over the world.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool that you kind of had like a leg up to like because a lot of people when they do their very first band, they've never, you know, like there's the aspect of performance, so there's like like there, but there's also the aspect of like public speaking in between sets
Yeah.
and like trying to like you know
Yeah.
continue with a vibe with no music. That's
Yes.
but it sounds
Yeah.
like you've had a bit of a maybe not on on the public speaking aspect through gymnastics, but like as far as being in front of people doing something that's
Mhm.
entertaining, like I think that's you had a bit of a head start at the very least.
100%. Yeah. And just like being able to handle the pressure, like
Hmm.
not feeling like I'm gonna crack or anything. And like realistically, Fold hasn't really done any like huge shows that have required pressure because all of our shows have like been within Western Canada where it's just homies performing to homies and it's like super chill vibes. But
Right.
I feel like if given the opportunity to like go to different places where like I'm performing in front of more strangers, making more of like that first impression, I feel like I'm not gonna crack under that pressure that some people might feel just
Hmm.
because of my experience in performing and like I love performing. The hardest part definitely is speaking between songs and stuff and like that whole public speaking aspect. I'm kind of awkward and I'm like, I don't really want to do this. That's why I have Dan. He like covers like the thank yous and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just in charge of dedicating sets to Nikki if
Yeah,
for all that.
exactly. Exactly. I was like, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say thank you, Nikki, even though she had nothing to do with this show. I'm still gonna thank her.
Like I know Nikki's probably listening to this episode, but like it's just funny. I was thinking about that because the amount of audio and video footage I have just of her cackling to like just someone saying something or hilarious is just like I couldn't even like I would have to spend multiple days like pulling all of that because there's so many from all the years I've been doing this shit.
Yeah.
But going back to the gymnastic sides, like talk like what is the is there anything like at least from that world to hardcore that you weren't expecting there to be like a lot of similarities, like even just in the actual like the movement side when it comes to like mosh styles? Like, is there stuff
Mhm.
within that people wouldn't expect if they don't know anything about the gymnastics world, that there's lots of crossover there?
Man, okay, so there's this mosh move that people do that is like a very difficult, high level ranked competitive gymnastics move. And every time I see people do it, I'm like, oh, like that's fucking awesome. And I don't even know how to explain it, but it's like the one where you're on one leg and you're like kicking your other leg back and spinning around, kind of. And we call that an illusion in gymnastics.
An
And
illusion.
I know like an illusion, yeah. And I know that like Luca does them a lot and like um Tyler from Inclinations
I was
doing those
thinking
a lot.
that's a Tyler Short
Yeah, it's the
back
Tyler
kick.
Short back kick move. That move,
Mm.
like that's a gymnastics move. That's called an illusion. And that's like girls train years to be able to do that. And all of a sudden some dude in cargo pants and Nikes is doing this. Like that's crazy to me. That's crazy.
I'm gonna have to email Tyler after this episode and be like, just so you know, you could run it up with some high
Yeah,
level gymnastics gals.
for sure, for sure.
I just want someone to take any footage of Tyler Short and just like superimpose it over like a gymnastics performance.
Yes. Be awesome.
Yeah,
But
me and
yeah,
Asia in the
Boston
back
for sure.
holding just fat
Score.
tens. Is there any like things on the prep side for gymnastics that you do when it comes to like performing for a full set, or is it just more like basic shit, like maybe I'm gonna stretch or maybe I'm gonna like drink some water? Like, I don't know if there's like anything specific that's either basic or a little bit more intermediate when it comes to just like prep work from both of those camps.
You know what? Like, honestly, absolutely. I feel like people are quick to clown on the dude that's stretching before the pit, but you know what? That guy's waking up in the morning feeling fine. So many so many of my hardcore friends are always like, "Oh, my shoulder. Oh, my back." And it's like, "Man, just do your stretches." Like, when you're moving your body that fast, like, you are pulling, tearing little, like, micro tears in your muscles, and if you're not stretching before that, they don't have the ability to heal as fast and properly, so
Mhm.
you're just, like, essentially tearing up your muscles for no reason, and it's like, warm yourself up, do some arm circles before. I always warm my body up before performing, or if it's, like, a set that I know I might go a little bit crazy for, like, I'm always stretching my, like, hamstrings, my shoulders. It's just you gotta take care of your body, and then also drinking water. I know a lot of bands drink water, but I definitely know some people that are like, "Oh, I only drink, like, Red Bulls or only, like, pop or something on stage," and it's like, "Oh, don't do that." Like, you need water, you need to hydrate yourself.
Yeah.
So, water and stretching, like, those are obviously, I feel like, pretty obvious, but I feel like not enough people are doing it.
Yeah, well, like, speaking of our favorite gymnastics hardcore dude, Tyler, like, if you've seen Constraint before, that man
Yep,
is stretching before.
stretching, always stretching.
He's like horizontal on the stage before they're set at times, just like
Yes,
really just making sure. But that man is like older than I am, and he goes like
crazy.
Super Saiyan hard when it comes to his
Yeah,
performance. And,
exactly.
but like, obviously that goes without saying, like if the riff is calling and you haven't done your stretches and you got to pit for 40 seconds, like that like
You gotta do
that is
it.
encouraged. You have to. But if
Yeah.
you're like I'm going off to support my friends, just maybe do a couple of these.
Do a little prep. Yeah, do a little prep for your body.
Yeah.
Uh,
On the gymnastics side, like, are you? I guess like that is your job as well. Like when it comes to like teaching, is that correct?
yeah, like I'll do some coaching, like coaching kids and stuff, and then also like helping out around like different studios that I go to quite a bit and stuff like that. So I would definitely consider it one of my jobs for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is interesting to hear how you have to kind of disconnect at times when it comes to like the aspect of being a perfectionist in that space versus,
Yeah,
like everyone wants to have like a perfect hardcore set, but I feel like the how you define perfect for like a set in DIY music is a lot different from what you would do in like something more theatric. Like you
for
could
sure.
have played maybe like 75% good, but maybe the vibe and everything else made up for that 25%.
Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um do you think that there's been a perfect full set so far, or is that still to come?
Oh, not even close. Like I love those boys more than anything. But and I've told them this, I hear every wrong note. They think I don't, but I hear every wrong note that's played. But you know
Yeah.
what? Like we're just having fun, and at the end of the day, all of our sets have had like quite good reactions. Especially on this last run that we did. Like the Edmonton set was absolutely insane. The stage is like tiny. It's like a step up, so you can't really jump off of it. But people were jumping off the tables, off like the monitors, anything that they could jump off of, they were jumping off of it. So it was
Yeah.
just sick. So at the end of the day, like I really don't care how good we play as long as the audience likes it and they're feeling that energy, then I'm happy.
Yeah. So going back to the demo and talking about like some of the the lyrics and some of your like vocal like aspects, like it's always like really cool to see someone's, when it's someone's like first band and kind of like what are the things that they're passionate about when they want to like put that set to the music. So can you talk to me about like the vocals and the lyrics that you were writing for this release, and if there's certain lines or certain songs that like really were very important to you to get right?
I think all of them are really important, but especially I think coming from both Daniel and I was the last song, which is Everyone Hates Marineland, which that in itself is like hilarious because for people from the US, they probably wouldn't know this, but we have something called Marineland, and the commercial goes, Everyone loves Marineland. So I was like, let's do Everyone Hates Marineland because fuck Marineland. And then that was kind of our like vegan song that we wanted to do because Dan and I have both been vegan for years. But we wanted it to be something that you can still kind of connect to even if you aren't vegan, which is why we kind of went the Marineland SeaWorld route.
Hmm.
Because I don't know a single person in hardcore that fucks with SeaWorld or likes Marineland, whether they're vegan or not, right? So I
Right.
was like, if we say this is something that's like kind of going on that animal liberation route that everyone kind of agrees with, and everyone's like, yeah, like that's kind of sucks. You shouldn't have dolphins in like closed spaces and stuff like that. And then in that way, I was like, people are going to be more likely to listen to it that aren't vegan. And then maybe that could spark some sort of idea in their head of being
Sure.
like, this is kind of something that's actually kind of interesting to me that I want to look more into. Also, with the lyrics itself, it's not very chanty, being like, go vegan, go vegan. We don't actually mention the word vegan in that song once.
Hmm.
It's more talking about like the environment, and like a line in that song that really like is important to me was as the smoke fills the sky, will you sit back and cry, kind of talking about climate change. um, and then after that it says, now that it's in your backyard, change doesn't seem so hard. And that was important to me, kind of thinking about Kelowna this summer and all of those like super super beautiful houses burning, and like now people want to talk about it now that
Right.
like all these like, and I'm like, it's a tragic story what happened there, but now that all these like rich upper class communities have had their homes burnt in this like beautiful scenic area of the world, now people are like, oh, this is so sad, like climate change and like the world's dying, blah blah blah. So it's kind of like
Like
as the
we've
smoke
been
fills
saying
the
this
sky.
for forever already.
Exactly, we've
Yeah.
been saying this forever. So that was kind of my way of being like, now that it's in your backyard, change doesn't seem so hard. So now that you are being affected by it, now you want to talk about it. When before,
Right.
when it was just like third world countries being affected by it, by like sea level rise and stuff like that, it didn't matter. But now that it's in our Western communities that like have more money and stuff like that, now it's something that people want to talk about. So that's what I was highlighting in that song. And like, if you like really read the lyrics in that song, it's all about like climate change and how like humans have like contributed to this part of our world and how we like have chosen to ignore it or like be ignorant to it. And now that we're at a point where we can't really ignore it anymore, now people are like, how could this happen? How could we
Right.
let this happen? You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is like probably our most important song on the whole demo. It's
Yeah.
also our longest one.
Yeah, and I've just on the musical side of it, like I was speaking with Dan the other day about like it's also the most different as far as the other tracks, as far as like
Mhm.
you guys doing like I think that you have like kind of like a singing kind of more talking portion on that track,
Yeah,
and there's like some different like styles on the instrumentals as well.
yeah,
But I think it's like one of my favorites of that because it is so different.
yeah,
So I hope that you guys have had other good responses both on the lyrics and the music side. Like and as you guys write more stuff, that you continue with some of those cadences for sure. So I guess like when it comes to like future plans, because like um you know for friends that you're going to be going through a bit of like a life transition as far as like moving to another country.
yeah, yeah,
So doing a long distance band is obviously like easier said than done. So like
for
are there
sure.
plans in the works right now when it comes to new music? Like I'm sure you're going to be back and forth a lot of times, but
Yeah,
at least speaking from experience, like when you do a long distance project, you need to be like intentional about like, okay, I'm
yes.
going back and during
We're
this
getting shit
week
done.
we're getting shit done. Exactly. So
Yeah,
has there been any thoughts or plans made yet, or is that to be
yeah,
determined?
well, I've definitely, like, set goals with the guys in terms of, um like, we're coming back for, like, an event in April, and I'm like, "By then, we should have, like, this written so we can, like, start recording," and, like, in theory, I can record my voice kind of anywhere, so that's not as much of a worry, but and, like, Dan and I did the demo long distance because he lives 3 hours away, right? So it was pretty
Right.
much just us FaceTiming and, like, him playing riffs and me being like, or me being like, "Yeah, like, keep that one." So I think it's gonna be, like, the similar vibe with that. Um, but yeah, it is crazy that I'm, like, moving and it's gonna like, we just put it out and now it's like I'm moving into a different country. But honestly, like, we have goals set, and I think that's all that matters. I'm a very get shit done person. Again, that gymnastics side of me, if we say we're gonna do something on this date, it's gonna happen.
Mhm.
So I think it should be good still. I think all of us are like pretty determined in making it happen. And we're also like not in any rush. Like we're doing it just for fun. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's gonna work still. We have some goals for like new music to be written for the Super Bowl event and stuff. So
Mhm. Which is
we're gonna
in
make it happen.
February. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna make it happen.
Mhm. Is because I always like to be able to like, I'm I document shows and live performances, but I feel like I also document people's, where they're at in their hardcore journey, if you want to call it that, through this podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if there's like three personal Asia goals that you hope to do for this year to come. And that could either be fold related, it could be just like personal. I'm just curious if there's any like intentional things that, if you
Yeah.
hit those goals, then you can look back at this podcast and be like, damn, I done did that.
Yeah. Like a fold related goal, I would love and like I don't know if this is a stretch because it's like hard for Canadian bands to get this amount of recognition. I would love to play a coastal scene in the US. So whether that be West Coast or East Coast, I think that would be fucking awesome for our band.
Mhm.
So I would love to be able to do that. A personal goal is I'd love to go to more countries that are drastically different than my own and see how hardcore works there. Because this year I got to go to Thailand, which was like awesome. Getting to go to a show in Bangkok, it was crazy. Like seeing their mosh, I was like, damn, they shout out Bangkok. You guys have crazy ass mosh. Like they're
Mhm.
awesome down there. And then I get to go to Colombia also for hardcore in December, so I'm super lucky for that. And then yeah, in 2024 I want to be able to like see more countries and like go to shows in more countries that are drastically different than North America.
I
Mhm.
find like you learn so much when you are going to see like even if you just like zoom it in a little bit more, like even just going to like I felt like I learned so much in my time on the eastern side of Canada when it came to like
Mhm.
hardcore stuff and just seeing the differences and some of
Mhm.
those things and I find you anytime you're more of a like a newcomer or you're just visiting, like I feel like you should have your fucking reading glasses on and like really
Yeah.
look at how things operate so you can take that experience when you go back home as well. Like
Yeah.
you I, f- I feel like sometimes people can get in the mindset it's like my hardcore scene is the best in the game and you know, you need to have a little bit of that confidence for sure, but like
Mhm.
you should take when you're in new places like be a be an intentful observer on what's
Yeah,
happening.
100%.
Mhm.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah. When you were in Thailand and Bangkok, is there anything like you know, it's one thing to admire like some style that's not common to your area for sure, but was there anything in the way the show was run or the local bands that were playing that was just like very caught your eye?
I think like there's a level of gratefulness for music that they have there that we I think have lost in
Mhm.
North America. Um, like not a single person was sitting at the back for a set. Every single person for every single set was watching every single band. Like it
Yeah.
was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. So I think that there's like a lot more appreciation and like gratefulness for that. I think also because like they don't get as many like touring bands from the United States. And you see a little bit of that in Canada too, where like in Western Canada, Alberta particularly, like we don't get a lot of US bands coming through because we're not on a tour route. So it's like really hard for bands to like get here.
Yeah.
Um, so when we do have bands from the US come, it's like we don't even care what you sound like. Everyone's going to be moshing for it, like
Mhm.
because we're just happy you're here. So it was like that in Bangkok, but on like a way bigger um like scale. So
Right.
yeah, everyone was just like super grateful, and then everyone was like really like connected to each other. Like you could just feel the love in the room. Yeah,
I I feel like if people are sitting, like, it is so disrespectful at a heavy music show. Like, this
yeah.
is
You know
not
what?
the fucking opera, like, fucking stand-up, like, I don't know what to say. Like, you don't have to mosh, I
especially
understand, but yeah.
especially at local shows. If you're on tour, that's a different thing. You might be fucking tired, but if you're just like showing up for a local show and you're sitting down for someone's set, that might be personal.
Asia's gonna fold you like a piece of paper if you sit.
Yeah,
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 exactly.
exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a
That
threat.
yeah. Yeah, this is a threat.
Yeah,
Asia, uh, as we head towards the close, I asked 2 more questions. The
I'm
first
ready.
being the the ongoing kind of closer main question for the podcast, which is a favorite Mosh related story for you to share. So that's anything that's first your head, either related to you, related to a band, or it could have just been a random show that you were attending and you saw something. Whatever's first to your head is how we start to end things here.
Ah, I have like so many that I gotta think for a moment
Yes. It's
for one
always
to come to
I
mind.
have too many to think of, or what are the ones that I can tell that's not gonna get someone in trouble? Those are the 2
Yeah,
common
literally, that's
questions.
kind of like filtering out, like, oh, maybe don't tell any Zach stories. Um, um, for myself, for like a mosh move for myself, probably like recently, at Sangla when they came through Calgary. So that show 5 days later, I would be leaving for a gymnastics event in Amsterdam. So I was like, I love this band. I love all the bands on this tour package. I cannot get hurt. Like, I absolutely cannot get hurt. So I was like, I'm going to wear an outfit
that will make me be like, okay, you can't mosh because this is like an expensive, like nice outfit that you don't want to be moshing in.
Sure.
Man, like Sango Sickabox started their first song, and like I don't know what took over me, but something did. And I'm like running across the stage in a little mini dress, and I like flip off the stage, and I tore the shit out of the back of this dress. And it was actually my mom's as well. So I was like, oh no. Like, I wore this outfit so I wouldn't do this, and I did it anyways.
Right.
Like how I'm trying to think of like other people. I mean, I think it's like really I love watching like stage dives and stuff. So like everyone's stage dives at Sound and Fury in 2022 was super super sick. Just seeing people like go for it and actually flip was super awesome. So
Yeah.
probably like shout out that fest for their stage divers as well. And then another like mosh classic favorite is every time Daniel dislocates his shoulder while moshing. Even though he's always like, I gotta stop moshing, I dislocate my shoulder every time. And then he's there dislocating his shoulder.
Yeah,
It's
I don't.
awesome.
It is awesome. I can't remember. We had someone on recently. I don't know why I'm blanking. Oh, it was Kane from Speed, a fellow dislocator. And we
Okay,
I
okay.
think we got it. Like I think we talked 15 minutes about how often that happens for him and how he has to like
Yeah,
pop it back in, and then if he doesn't, it's like the most excruciating pain. But
yeah.
there have been multiple times where I've like run up on Dan and he's got like a fucking
He's doing this
giant.
move, and you know
He's
he's
doing
like when
this,
he's doing
or
this.
he's got a bag of ice on it, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what
Every
happened this
show.
time? But,
Every show.
yeah, every show. But I do think that there's a lot of bog songs that start and it's just like it overtakes you.
It does. It does. I should have just been smart and worn a normal outfit that day and just accepted the fact that I was gonna
Yeah.
be moshing.
I mean, you tried. You were like, I'm gonna try to
I'm gonna
add a
make an
barrier.
effort.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make an effort to stop to not mosh.
yeah. But like again, going back, it's like it doesn't matter if you've worn your mom's favorite dress or you haven't stretched. When the mosh call is calling, you got to answer it.
It just takes over, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, Asia, again, I'm really excited that we get to finally do this. All the fold links and your personal links will be in the description and in the show notes. Anything you want to shout out, send the people off on, or end, or plug for the episode.
Um, shout out everyone that helped along the way. Shout out you for having me here. And then to all the haters, I hope you're getting comfortable with being uncomfortable because I'm not leaving.
Beautifully said. Yeah, keep staying mad and listen to Fold. I'm very excited to see, see what's next in the Fold camp. I think it's going to be very, 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 very sick. And thank you once
In
again,
the
Asia,
Foldiverse.
in the Foldiverse.
Yes.